All right, so we are being recorded again. My name is Joel Mieses. I am in the board of VANOMA, which is the Virginia chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects. So let me share my screen here so we can get started. Share screen. Share. Okay, everybody see my screen? All right, so again, this is how to start your ARE journey. Again, you got 6 exams that we got to get through that, that are part of the ARE. Again, my name is Joel Mieses, registered architect here in Virginia, a recent ARE graduate, I guess. I don't know if it's graduate or past. So again, this is what we're going to talk about today. There's basically 3 phases to licensure. In the entire country, education, which, I'm assuming most of you guys have your degree already in architecture, so we're not going to spend too much time on that because you're already gone through that. But what you're going through now is your experience, right? And then after that, it's your examination. So I don't know if some of you have embarked on, have experience recorded already with your AXP or not. And then finally, examination, which is the actual exam. So there's 3 phases to getting your license. And then we're going to talk about some resources and then some questions. All right, so everything that I'm going to talk to you about is coming straight from the source, coming straight from NCARB. This is not stuff that I made up or going off my knowledge, my previous memory. They update these guidelines quite often. If you go to the NCARB website, they're constantly updating them every few months. So I want to make sure I got the latest and greatest, so you guys have the latest information. So everything that I'm giving to you is not from some stuff that I made up or stuff that I'm going off of memory, but it's coming straight from the source, which is NCARB, which is the who administers the exams, right? So again, like I mentioned earlier, you see this graphic right here, 3 steps: education, experience, examination, and after that, you can you have a certification which NCARB administers, which basically gets licensed in different states, but once you get to examination, the goal is to get through examination. This part at the end is, it's kind of like a bonus. So that's the 3 steps. So like I said, most of you guys, like I said already, I'm assuming all you guys have your degrees or, are working professionals. I don't know if I have any. In the past, I had people that were in school still, but basically in Virginia, you got to graduate. If you graduate from one of those, if you're from the state of Virginia, we had 3 accredited programs here in the state: Hampton, University of Virginia, Virginia Tech. So if you graduate from one of those, you will qualify to sit for the exam. There are other architectural programs such as JMU, but they're not accredited, I think. And then there are other programs that have architectural engineering, but they're not accredited. But if you graduate from one of these 3 schools, you're good to go. So I'm assuming you guys graduated from either one of those 3 or from another school in another state. So let's move forward with that. So the first step that you need to do once you graduate from one of those schools, once you have your degree or working out, is establish your NCARB record. So if you don't have that, you basically go to the NCARB website, and you create an account, right? If you create an account, that way, you are able to, to start the process of examination. So you have to have an account. You cannot just sign in as a guest to take your exams, because you have to pay a fee. And I'm going to get to that in a second. And then be mindful that here, here in Virginia, the agency that monitors not examinations but the licensure is the Virginia Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation, and and they have a board for architects, engineers, land surveyors, interior designers, and landscape architects. So DPOR is the agency here. Every state has that agency. I'm licensed in Florida. The Florida is the DBPOD. So every state has one. So here in Virginia is the DPOR, and here's the contact information. That's the contact person, and their address obviously here in Richmond because it's the capital of the state, and then there's the website. So. But you get to them once you finish your exams. That's the agency you're going to be dealing with. And if you have any questions, they're probably going to refer you to NCARB because they follow NCARB's guidelines for all the examination stuff. But the first thing you need to do is establish your NCARB record. So if you haven't done that, you need to do that. You go to NCARB website and you create an NCARB account. You establish your record and you can go from there. And here are the fees for that. Right? So there's actual fees for now people who are taking the exams now and people like me who are registered, we have a different fee structure. So, so this right here at the top is like once you get licensed, there's an application of $100 to get that to have that the NCAR record, which lets you basically pretty much NCAR holds your record in place. And if you want to become licensed in another state, they'll send you information to that state. That the board that I just mentioned here in Virginia, the BPOR, they will contact NCAR to access your record. Now, if you don't have an NCAR account, then you have to submit that stuff yourself manually. So it's actually to your best interest to keep, if you plan on just being licensed in other states, even if you're just licensed here in Virginia, to keep your NCAR record that way, because it just makes it a lot easier. They maintain your record. They also give you a continuing education. There's a lot of resources that NCAR gives you. I mean, I'm not trying to, be a PR spokesman for NCAR, but I'm just saying it's a lot easier. If you don't do that, then you have to submit your stuff yourself and keep track of the stuff yourself. Right here, if you're a candidate, which, if you're taking an exam, you're a candidate, the annual renewal fee is $85. So you establish your record, and then you have to pay the $85, and then every year, you have to pay the $85. So it took me, because I was actually having children with my wife when I was taking these exams. So it took me a long time to finish. It took me like 6 years from where I started all the way to where I finished. Because I was taking like one exam a year in some cases because, having kids and all that. And I failed several anyway. But anyway, so I had to keep paying that $85 every January in order to keep your record. Now, if you let it lapse, like if I didn't pay it 1 year, there's a fee for that too. So $85 renewal fee each year, and a partial year lapse up to $185. So, there's if you let it lapse, it's going to cost you more money to renew it, to get it back on. So I was made a point, even though I only was taking a couple exams a year or failing, to renew it because, like I said, I didn't want to pay that extra fee, to renew it. Now once you become licensed, there's $385 if you want to become licensed in another state. So that's another thing, that they will send your record to another state. There's a fee for that too. So like I said, they maintain all your records, and it says a lot easier, because if you don't do that, you have to do that and send it yourself. And it's a processing fee of $20 for other stuff. Any questions on any of the fees for NCAR? So that's kind of like what you got to be paying for. Some of you guys might be paying that already because you're licensed. So now let's talk about AHP. If you haven't done that, if you haven't started that, basically you have to obtain, what is AHP? And that when I was going through, it wasn't called AHP. It was called, what was it called? I can't remember what it was called. It was called different. I can't remember what it was called. But it wasn't AHP. But it's the Architecture Experience Program. So it's an essential step to become an architect. So basically, this is where you gain professional experience, right? So you are under the tutelage of a licensed architect, and they have different experience areas that they want you to obtain, in the actual world of real architecture. That way, not only will help you with your exams, but it will also help you become a better architect. So it's like you're working under somebody's kind of taking it on your wing. You have a tutor or a supervisor, and hopefully you have that in your firm. Typically, a lot of the firms are very, very good at that. Some firms are not, that good at that. But hopefully you're in a firm that kind of appreciates you becoming licensed and just sign up with hours. But you need to log in about 3,740 hours are required, and these are the experience areas, which are the exams, and it's basically getting real world experience. Now, depending on what your firm does, sometimes it's difficult to gain some experiences, or depending on what your duties are at work. But in order to get some of these hours, you're gonna probably be doing stuff you normally wouldn't do. Especially early in your career, like you're gonna be doing or watching stuff that the principal or somebody at the upper management will be doing. But if your firm works with you, they will work with you to make sure you get that experience. Bring you along projects, bring you along meetings, owners meetings, stuff that you normally wouldn't be doing in your day-to-day activities. just to complete those hours. So it's important that you work for a firm that's willing to work with you so you can get the hours that you need. So you can get, there's like 96 tasks that are typical, that are performed within those 6 experience areas. Now, I'm not going to go through all 96, obviously, because it will be here all day. But, typically, they must be submitted within an 8-month period to gain full credit. So basically your mentor, your supervisor, yourself, your supervisor also has to log in. They don't necessarily have to have an NCARB record, but they have to have an account. That way, when they log in, they can approve your hours. So, so right here, you got the required hours to break down for the 6 areas that equal to 3,740. So you can see the project planning and design and project development and implementation or PPD or PDD exams are the ones that require the largest amount of hours, right? So you have to make sure that, it's going to take you a few years to get those hours. Obviously, you're not going to do that in a year, 3,740 hours. And then you can get experience in 2 ways, right? You can get it in the A setting or O setting, which A setting is, you work that you actually do in an actual firm, like traditional architectural stuff. If you work for a firm, you have to get 1,860 hours in the A setting. That's the minimum, right? You can get all of them through A setting, but you cannot get all of them to the O setting, which is experiences that can be performed outside of architecture firm, through like volunteering or teaching. Some people graduate from school, they want to teach, you do it that way. But they also want you to get experience in the traditional setting, which is A, and that's where you have a minimum. Now, I say you can get all 3,740 hours in the A setting, which most people do, but obviously you can do it. You can do it in the O setting in case your firm is not giving you all those hours. And this is the O setting right here. This kind of things that you can kind of do in the O setting, right? So you can work, design construction related employment, community-based design, you can get some certifications, you can do some design competitions, you can do continuing education series for NCARB, you can do site visits with a mentor, stuff like that that's outside of the traditional, business of architecture, but it's still related. So you can do continuing education right here through AIA. It gives you the amount of hours that you can do for each, right? So this right here is the A setting right here, which is work under a licensed professional. You have to have, like I said, a minimum of 1,860, but then the other ones you can make up to the O setting, and it gives you a breakdown of how many you can get through those different areas. Like I said, community-based design, if you want to volunteer, you do a collaborative or stuff like that, that's outside of the business of architecture. So most of us do it under the licensed professional, but sometimes you can step away from that and do it in different ways, right? Like I said, AXP supervisor is the individual who must be a licensed architect, right? Here in the state that you want to be licensed in, which is, hopefully here in Virginia, most of you. And they have to sign your hours, so you communicate with that person and you let them know, hey, I'm going to be submitting my hours. You don't have to do them all at once. You can do it monthly, you can do it weekly, just keep track of them. The way I did it, I have my own spreadsheet and I used to keep track of my own hours, and then I would submit them monthly, and then I would let him know I'm going to be submitting hours, and he will go in there and he will just approve them. Sometimes they will ask you questions, or, depending on who you're working with, they might, question it, but mine did. And they just trusted me that I was doing the stuff, because he wasn't keeping track of the hours. I was. Obviously, he wasn't keeping track of every minute everything I was doing. But I would tell him, hey, I'm trying to get hours in this area. And he would try, or in some cases, it was he, because he was my supervisor, but he would get me to make sure I got experience in that time. But he wasn't keeping the amount of hours I was doing in that I was. So make sure you do that and have a good communication with your supervisor. Any questions on the AXP? All right, cool. Let's move on. Let's talk about the third leg of this thing, which is examination, right? Which is the most important part. So I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with the ARE. It's been in place since 2016. Before that, it was a 4.0 exam, which, I started in the 4.0. And I was part of that transition group. I had to take less exams because I took 3 if you took 3 in the 4.0, you don't have to take 2 in the 5.0. So I got to take it in 5 instead of 6. Before it was 7 in the 4.0, and it went down to 6. But if you do that transition thing, you can only do it in 5. So a lot of us took advantage of that. So I did. But been around since 2016, much better than the 4.0 exam. More comprehensive and more related to the profession. The 4.0 was more in silos, like you focus on one area at a time. Whereas this one is kind of more difficult, in my opinion, because it covers a broad spectrum of things. And you have to study for more than one thing at a time for each exam. All right, so let's talk about exam eligibility, right? So once you go to NCARB and create your account, right, you can go to NCARB and you can do what is called checking your eligibility, right, to make sure that you are eligible to take the exam. And once you go into that part of the website, it takes it right here. You actually submit your documentation, meaning they will ask you to submit your transcripts from the school you graduated for, to make sure they can ensure you graduated from an accredited institution. Like, for example, here in Virginia, we got 3. So if you didn't graduate, if you live in Virginia and you went to, let's say, JMU, you graduated from their architectural engineering program, that's not going to fly, right? So you have to either graduate from Virginia Tech, Hampton, or University of Virginia. Now, if you went to another school outside of the state, then they will check. They check all universities. So that's what And then they ask you. They're not going to ask you for your high school diploma, but you have to submit your transcripts to make sure you have at least a bachelor's degree in architecture, a professional degree in architecture, which is a bachelor or a master's. So they'll take care of that, and they'll let you know, okay, you are able to take the exam now. You will get that email. Once you make you get your supervisor. You pay your fee. You create an account. You pay your fee. You submit your transcripts. And then you get a supervisor on board, and they would tell you, okay, you can go ahead and you're eligible to start taking the exam. So they don't, they won't let you take the exams unless you are meet all those requirements prior to, right? So once you have that out of the way, then you can start taking the exams. And then obviously we had the rolling clock, and that got established about a decade ago, which you have to take the exams within 5-year period. That means that doesn't start when you take your first exams. That starts when you pass your first exam. So the minute you pass, you get your first pass, that's when the rolling clock starts. That means you have 5 years to finish all the other, let's say we got 6 exams. So you pass one, that means you got 5 to go. So you got 5 years to finish the other 5, and then you will lose the first one you pass. And then you subsequently begin losing the next ones on the next 5-year date. So pretty much every exam has a 5-year expiration date, right? So you pass your exam, you got 5 years before that exam expires. Because in the past, people would take one exam and wait 10 years and take it again and wait another 2 years, and it used to be all over the place. But then they put that rule so you don't take up useless. Now, however, they do give extensions. Obviously, when COVID hit, all of us, I remember I was taking exams during COVID. I think they gave everybody a year and a half, basically, on their rolling clock. So that's why, I mentioned you guys that it took me 6 years to pass the exams. So before COVID hit, I had 5 or 6 months before my first exam that I passed in 2014 was due, right? And I also got an extension when I switched from 4.0 to 5.0. So I got gave me a few more months. So it was weird. But anyway, I had a few months before I passed, my last one, or I was going to lose my first one. But then when COVID hit, then they gave us a year and a half. First they gave us 6 months, and they gave us another 6 months, and they gave us another year. It was crazy. So then I was okay, so I have more time. And then I finished the last one and I was done. And I had a year and a half left anyway. But then they do have exceptions. If you're a woman, you get pregnant, they will give you an extension for that. If you get sick, you're in the hospital, something happens in your family, you have to apply to NCARB. So if they're not going to give you an extension just because you just didn't pass all the exams, and you go in and you submit the request. They'll review it, and they'll let you know if they give it an extension. Like I said, typically it's something family related or something beyond your control. You losing your job is not one of those. I mean, I get on those forums where people complain about certain things. I lost my job, so I want an extension. I'm not going to give you an extension for that. But if you're pregnant, obviously you need to, you're pregnant, you might not be, feeling like taking, studying or even taking exams, and you have your baby, you're obviously going to take care of your baby. You're not going to be thinking about studying or taking no exams, or somebody that's in your family, or you're sick, you're in the hospital, something happens, stuff like that. They'll give you an extension for sure. The other ones are, depends. All right, so let's talk about any questions on that, by the way, in the rolling clock. All right, yeah, no questions. All right, so let's talk about, you can see right here, this coming straight from NCAR. See, I got Virginia highlighted. These are some of the requirements that, that some states have, and, NCAR, all 50 states, including the District of Columbia, follow NCARs for their exam. No, some states like California give an additional exam after you pass the NCAR before you get licensed. Some states might have additional tests that you have to do, but Virginia, once you pass the ARE, the 6 exams, you're good to go. You're done. You don't have no supplemental exams like the California CSA, California, because they got, earthquakes and stuff. So they got them. But, you got this, some of the stuff that you see that Virginia does follow. Online application is available. Once you pass the exam, a professional degree is required from an accredited school, an NAAB accredited school. That's National Architecture Accreditation Boards. And then an ESA evaluation for an application is accepted. So that's for people who are not from this country. You did the IDP was when I was going to the experience, it was called IDP, not AXP. So completion of AXP is required. So you have to finish them before you. Now, in certain states, you have to have a certain amount of hours before you can take the exam. In Virginia, I think you can take the exam right away. I should have checked on that. I'm not sure, but that's something that I can probably go into the regulations thing. What was that?
I heard that I knew about this from a couple years ago, that you can actually take the exam in Virginia without necessarily finishing all of your experience requirements.
Okay.
That's something like it was introduced a few years ago as well. So that's pretty recent development.
Okay, great. So that's the thing. So you can take them, but the thing is that they won't give you a license until you finish them. That's the key. So you can start taking them.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can start taking the exam right away, which is great. I know when I was in Florida, that's where I used to live. And I'm sorry, I just opened the chat. I didn't have the chat open. Yes, math. Okay, yeah, UVA first on the master's program. Okay, that's not accredited. Oh, that's okay. So Virginia Tech only has the MArch. Okay, some schools have both MArch and BR. But my school has both. Some schools have both. Anyway, but in Florida, when I used to live in Florida until 2019, you had to have like 1,500 hours. But the IDP, the old IDP was 5,000 hours. Like, so they reduced that number in the AXP to that 3,740. But the IDP was 5,000 something. I can't remember what the number was, but it was more, I think. And then in Florida, I needed to have at least 1,500 completed. And so I needed to submit evidence of that. And then I was eligible to take the exam. So remember I mentioned that you can check if you're eligible in your eligibility with NCAR, and they tell you once you start taking the exam. So like once I finished that 1,500, then they told me I'm eligible to take the exam because my jurisdiction was Florida. So depending on your jurisdiction, they let you know.
Sorry, back to UVA, because I graduated from both the undergrad and grad programs. But how that works is that like the Bachelor of Science in Architecture program is 4 years and it's not accredited. But then when you go to the master's program from there, not just at UVA, but also in some other schools across the country, you only take them in 2 years, not 3 years, as the professional degree is without a undergraduate degree.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I was fortunate. The school I went to, Florida A&M. Once you finish a bachelor's of science, you can do the 1 more year. one more year to finish the BARC, the professional degree. So it's a
nice.
5-year. It's 4+. It's 4+1 or 4+2. So you can do the master's or you can do the BARC. A lot of people who didn't want to deal with a master's. The BARC was obviously the most popular program.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted to do the master's or do a thesis, do all that stuff. So they just, okay, do the 4-in-1 and be out. But that was very competitive to get into because everybody wants to do that. So that's what I did. But I did my master's in landscape architecture, though, which is a different animal. Anyway, but you can see right here the different thing that the state of Virginia requires. As compared to other states. Some states, have more, all this filled out, less. But so like I said, all this stuff is available on the NCAR website. So as I just mentioned, ISB is required before they give you the license. You can start right away. So they have I should have mentioned, we had this IPAL program, which is a NCAR established where, and I'm not going to talk about that too much here today, but you can actually, it's a different program that established a few years ago, which you can actually start the process while you're in college, and even after you finish, you can continue it. But some states don't take it, some states do, and I said right here, Virginia said, some candidates who have passed the vision ARE to the. So if you can go to the NCAR website and learn more about it. I don't know much about it, but it's a different program, a different path to gain licensure than your traditional path, which I'm what I'm talking about now. But Virginia does accept that. So this is a jurisdiction-specific exam. Now, what they're talking about right here, this is a jurisdiction-specific exam. In addition to the ARE, means that basically once you pass the ARE, the state of Virginia is going to give you an exam, but it's basically an exam on the rules of the department, the DPOR. They have regulations, right? So it's basically like a 10-question exam. It's open book. They will send it to you. They will email it to you. Hey, this is literally what they did to me. Like I applied, they emailed me this little 10-question thing. And it's basically on the rules. So make sure that you know the basic rules of, how often you have to have continuing education, where do you go to apply, how much are the fees, stuff like that. So that's what they're talking about, state-specific exam. It's not like a very comprehensive, like a difficult exam. And you go and you read the rules and you answer the questions, send it back, and then if you pass it, they, I don't even know what the passing rate is. You have to get 8 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. I'm not even sure. They just told me, okay, you're good, and they gave me my license. So that's what it's here again. Yeah.
Do you know how I can reach out to them about that or apply to that exam?
No, you have to finish. You have to finish the ARE first.
Oh,
so it's
really?
when you go to apply for a license. When you go to apply for licensure here in Virginia, they send you this little 10-question quiz or whatever to make sure that you have read the rules and regulations of the state of the DPOR. So now you can go to the DPR website and read it and read the rules and regulations and be familiar with them. But like I say, it's not like they literally mail you a PDF and you fill it out and mail it back and email it back. That's how it was for me when I did it 2 years ago. I don't know if they changed that process, but it's once you apply for your license. So like once you apply for your license and they verify that everything is that NCAR send your transcripts to them, because NCAR will send you you tell NCAR, hey, send my transcripts to Virginia, and then you apply, you pay the fee here in Virginia, which is you pay the fee, and then once they have all your paperwork and everything's good, then they'll send you that test or that quiz or whatever, you pass it, then you're good. Then they give you your license, but that's like the last step. So that's what it's an application for initial registration. That's what that is, Now here in Virginia, you have to get 2 other architects to do what is called a recommendation form. So you have to get 2 other architects to vouch for you. Some other states don't do that. Florida, they don't do that. Once you do the application, NCAR sends the transcripts, and you're done. It's like $35 for the license. Here in Virginia, it's like $85. Plus, you have to send those 2 forms with 2 other architects, sign that you are a good person, basically, or you are a person of professional integrity, basically. 2 other licensed architects here in Virginia, So that could be somebody in your firm. Hey, can you sign this, off for me? And also, if you're applying in Virginia, once you apply for another thing here in Virginia, you have to do is that you have to also apply here in Virginia for eligibility. That's something I forgot to mention. So in some states you don't have to do it, but here in Virginia you have to also create an account with a DPOR. You go to that website. And you establish an account, and then you apply, and then you can do that professional recommendation stuff early if you want, and send that in while you're taking the exam. That when you get done, you're good to go, or you can wait till the end. It's up to you. But you do that. You do that, and then you can get. So here, let me share my screen. Share my screen, and then share my screen with. So this is the DPOR website here, right? So Department of Professional Occupation Regulation here in Virginia. You go to professions, and you can see they got all the professions. You get architects here, and it takes you to this board, which is a board that meet once a month. Oh, by the way, so once you apply, the board, this board right here of all these people, engineers and surveyors, designers, landscape architects, blah, 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 all those guys. The guy for architects, they meet once a month, right? And they review all the applications. So once you get licensed, once you finish the exams, you submit your application. Those guys get the application, they review it, and then they give it the okay, and that's when you get your license. They only meet like once a month. So so if you apply at the beginning of the month and they meet at the end of the month, you have to wait another month or in the middle. It doesn't matter. I don't know when they meet, but it's going to take like a month or two for you to get your license to know that you got your license in Virginia once you finish the exam. So, and you can see right here all the forms and applications, laws and regulations. So you can go in there. The statutes, this is the stuff where they give you the Virginia code. So you go in there and, and they got all the rules right here. That's what they're going to quiz you on, right? That's that test I was talking about, so that's kind of what that is. But everything you need to know is right here for the state of Virginia as far as being a license. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's go back to the presentation here so we can get to that. I know I spent a lot of time talking about that. All right, so moving on. So taking the exam. So the exam, how much? I'm pretty sure the exam is 6 divisions, totaling $1,410. That's if you're blessed enough to pass the exams once, which is good for you. I didn't do it. I know some people have done it. Those people are great. I wasn't able to do that. Was not one of those people. Each exam costs $235. If you fail it, it's the same amount of money. It's $235. You have to wait 2 months or 60 days to take it again. That same division again. So if you took practice management and you fail it, you feel really good about the exam. You feel like you always had it. You have to wait, and you want to take that same exam again. You don't want to study for another exam. You want to take that same one again because you feel like you're going to pass it. Next time you take it, you have to wait 60 days. Before, it used to be 6 months. When I started taking exams back in 2014, it used to be 6 months, which was a complete waste of time. It was crazy how long you had to wait. But now it's 2 months. But because of that, though, you can only take that same division, that same section of the exam 3 times within that 12-month period. So if you take it again in 60 days and you fail it, and you feel like, man, I almost had it. Let me wait 2 more months and take it again. And you take it again, you fail. Then you have to wait. You got to wait. I guess like another 6 months from the original, a year from the first time you took it, right? So you took it first time in January, and you took it again lastly in June, and you failed it 3 times. You have to wait to January to take that same section again. All right, so that's how that works. But so because back in the day, when you had to wait 6 months, and that's because they want to make sure that you're not memorizing questions, right? You're not memorizing questions because you will see the same questions over and over again. I mean, I had to take some sections a few times, and you will see, especially those big graphic questions. They don't like to repeat those so much. The multiple choice, that they're gonna be all over, but they don't have too many of those graphic or which I'm going to talk to about. if you take the in-person exam, it's PSI. It's a testing center that they use. You know, it used to be what was the other? I can't remember what it was. I didn't use PSI. I used the other one. Can't remember what it used to be. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, PSI. And once you go on NCARB, to the NCARB website to sign up for the exam, and now they have it where you can take once you reserve a seat, you can reserve the seat, and you don't have to schedule your appointment right there. So you buy a license for the seat, and you can come back and take it says right here up to a year to schedule your exam. So you can go ahead and pay for it now. If you're not sure when you want to take it, you can wait, a year to take it, which is good because back in the day, once you pay, you had to schedule right away. But now you can wait, up to a year to take it, once you buy the seat, which is good. So, and then once you decide to actually schedule it and you hit, schedule the exam, then you'll be taken to the PSI website, and then you'll see their appointments. They'll tell you, find out the one that's nearest to you. They have them all over the country, and then you go in and see the calendar and sign up for the test. For the actual day. Now, if you need to cancel, then you do that through PSI, not NCARB. You can try to reschedule, and there's a fee. They don't give you refunds for the exam. Like if you decide I don't want to take it anymore, they're not going to give you refunds. It's right here. But there is a rescheduling fee. Now, if you want because of COVID, obviously, testing centers were closed, but now, so they came up with the proctoring test, and then they kept that after COVID. Now, obviously, testing centers are open now, but if you want to take it at home, they have the online, what's called online proctor exam, which they should take in the comfort of your home. I personally don't like doing that because I don't rely, I really go there and just be in that environment than being at home and doing it at home. But if you're more comfortable with that, that's fine. But they have a whole bunch of guidelines that you have to follow. I'm not gonna go through all of them here, but this is some of the stuff that they require right here. Obviously, a computer or laptop setup, a webcam. You have to have a monitor, mouse, obviously audio, keyboard. But they have, and you can actually test the system to make sure everything is working well before you take the test. So they have like a performance test to make sure everything's in place before you take the test, obviously, because you don't want to get there and have something wrong and miss your appointment. But basically, you do it and somebody's monitoring you. I know some of you. I'm also a professor, so we also have the option at the community college I teach to do proctoring exams where you actually monitor the students while they're taking the test. I personally like doing that because you're looking at somebody's house. They can blur the background, but a lot of them don't do that. So I don't like to do that personally. But again, if you choose to do it that way, because obviously you can get to the testing center or there's not a PSI center close to you, you don't feel like driving or getting up there, then you can do it that way. But but like I said, they have it set up where you can do a testing of the systems to make sure everything's working. Your laptop, your camera, everything's working like it should be. That way, when you actually take the test, you're not trying to figure that stuff out then. So they have two options now. Obviously, after COVID, hit. All right. So, any questions on the actual testing center and stuff and fees?
So just to double check, you said that there's a 60-day period between if, God forbid, you fail an exam, you have to retake that after 60 days. Any of them, right?
Yeah, any section. So if you fail PPD, you have to wait 60 days to take it again.
Do I have to wait to pass this specific exam so I can take another one? So say
no. You say if you don't feel like taking PPD again, you can take whatever exam you want at any time.
Okay.
So the exams. Oh, by the way, the exam. Okay, so you see right here, these exams right here. They're not in any particular order. You can take any exam, any section of this at any time you want. It said like
the schedule is really helpful.
Yeah.
Can I take a screenshot?
Yeah, sure.
Lovely.
Now, this right here is kind of the recommended order because the exams are set up like in order of like construction document sequence, right? So like, project management and practice management and project management, not technically part of the construction documents, but like once you begin with programming and then move in programming and then you got PPD, it's kind of like schematic design and design development. And then PDD is definitely construction documents. And then CE is construction administration, right? So that's kind of like the sequence of kind of how you do a project. So that's kind of how how I'm in this order here. But however, you don't have to take them in this order. You can take them however you want. Some people like to type with these two right here because the longest exams. These are typically the easiest. They have the highest passing rate. This particular exam right here has the lowest passing rate. And this one right here, this two are the hardest. This one is one of the easiest technically by passing rate. So these three right here in the middle are technically the hardest, with PPD being the hardest per the passing rate. It's like, under 50%, like 48. I mean, last time I checked. And you can go to the NCAR website and find out what the passing rates are. But anyway, you don't have, and like I say, if you fail one, let's say you fail this one, practice management, and you're like, okay, let me just, I want to take this one, project management next week, you can do that, It's just that same, if you fill that specific section, you have to wait 60 days. So speaking of that, let me get into the video. We only got 10 minutes. So PCM, which is practice management, right? 65. I'm not gonna call them questions. I'm gonna call them items because they don't call them questions. Because you have different types of items, multiple choice. You got to check all apply, right? So you might have 3 or 4 response questions, check all the apply, check all the apply. So you have to get them all. Remember, each question in the ARE is worth 1 point, right? So there are no weight questions. No questions is more worth than others. So if you get stuck in time, like I said, it's a time exams, right? So if you get stuck in the questions, if you don't know the answer, you can mark it to come back later after you finish the test. You can come back to mark questions, or you can. What I meant to say, you can pick. I will suggest you pick an answer, right? You can just guess or just just do the basic thing I said. If you don't answer it, you're definitely gonna get 0. So they don't penalize you for getting wrong questions like the SAT does. That's what they used to. I don't know if they do it anymore. They don't penalize you for missing missing a question. They're just gonna give you credit for once you get right. And all questions are worth the exact amount. So even though a question might be more difficult than another, it's still the same amount. If you got a multiple choice with 4 answers, they ask you to choose all apply or choose the 4 out of 6. You have to get all 4 correct in order to get 1 point. So that's kind of how it is. So you got your typical multiple choice question where you only got one selection, and you got the all that apply, which is you have to just guess how many apply to the question. Might be 2, might be 3, might be 4, or they tell you, choose the 2 that are right, choose the 3 that are right, choose the 4 that are right. I would typically choose the 4 that are right. But the most common question is the multiple choice, a single one. And then you got quantitative fill in the blank, which you actually have to type in. They're not going to ask you to spell anything. They're going to ask you to put numbers. So every time I tell you to fill something in, it's going to be just numbers, right? So it's not going to be like, you don't have to write in an actual answer like with words. And typically, I would suggest you do everything in decimals. Like, don't try to put, fractions because you got a regular keyboard, right? So I would, I suggest you do fractions. You have a calculator, just divide the numerator with the denominator and get a fraction. It's just better, than trying to put 1 and 1.5. When you can put 1.5. It's just much easier, much cleaner. And I don't need to take fractions. I'm not even sure if you can put the 1 and over the dash over the 2. But I would just keep a decimal just to be safe. Like I said, just divide the 1 over the other just to get a decimal. So in hotspot, where they actually ask you to click on the right spot, they ask you where's the weave joint in this break, and you go and they give you a graphic, and you go with the cursor, you click on that, and kind of like the program knows that general area is the right answer, so that's the hotspot, right? And then drag and place, where they'll give you a detail and give you a bank of words, and leaders, blank leaders. So you have to, fill in the right details to the right leader, right? That's kind of like drag and place, or put this detail in the right location, or put this windowsill in the right location, or something like that. So it would be like a graphical. So the hotspot and drag and place are graphic questions, and then you also have the case studies, where they actually give you documents. You can go and find the answers within those documents. However, that takes a long time. So, you have features in the PDF where you can search for a word and it will find that word quickly, where you can move faster to the document. A lot of times they give you a section of the code, right? So you can go in there and type in what you're looking for and it will find it quickly. So you have to study the code. So like, if chapters 3, 5, 6, and 10 are going to show up for sure. So if you give you a question in the case study, and that question is probably be found in chapter 3 of the code, you can go there, chapter 3, find the answer a lot faster than you going through all the chapters, right? So, and then they give you different scenarios, and so those are technically not easier, but not easy because even though they give you the information is there, you have to know where to look. So that's the type of question or type of items that you're gonna have. Like this stuff right here is kind of basically a breakdown of this. Practice management, you have 65 items, and then the test duration is 240 minutes. Project management, again, 75. This is the shortest test here, right? Practice management, project management, 75. Items. PA, program analysis, 75, 3 hours. And this appointment time is they give you a 30-minute break, right? So they give you a 30-minute break, for all the exams. And here they give you 45 minutes because the exam is way longer. So you cannot choose to take your break if you don't want. If you want to just not take it and keep going. But I would suggest you take a break after a while just to decompress. Typically, what I would take my break between the multiple questions and the case studies. Typically, the case studies are at the end. So you get, for example, if you take, 5.0, I only took these 2 exams in 5.0. So typically, out of the 100 items, 80 are multiple choice. And then the last 20 are the case study questions. So like after get to question 80, I'll take my break. And now you can take your break whenever you want. Before you had to take it when they told you to, between the vignettes and the multiple choice, which, they don't have the vignettes anymore. So now you can take it whenever you want. If you want to take it 30 minutes in, an hour in, whatever you want, just hit the break button and you get a clock, you can go out, they'll check you back out. It's kind of like checking through an airport. By the way, you have to make sure you bring your ID and stuff to the testing center and make sure they'll let you know what you can bring inside or whatnot. Typically just a pencil and some scratch paper. Or no, now they actually have the whiteboard now where they actually want you to digitally put stuff on the whiteboard, which I don't like that either. But back in the day, they will give you a piece of pencil and paper, and you can, scratch stuff. And now they want you to use it on the screen, which is, it's not. In my opinion, it's not a good idea. Anyway, take your break whenever you want. Come back in, and then you hit the resume button. Now, if you take, you have a 30-minute break, you are out there for 40 minutes, then you come back in. The exam would have started already. So you lost 10 minutes. So, like I said, if you only need 30 out of the 45, just click resume and you can get back on. But if you need 50 out of the 45, you're going to lose 5 minutes. When you come in, the clock starts ticking. Once it hits 0, then the clock starts again on the exam. So make sure you're back before that. And like I said, make sure that you give yourself time to come back in because they have to check you back out and check you back in. That takes time. So you got to think about that.
So I want to make sure I understood this part right.
Yeah.
If you want to take a break, you could just like click pause or take a break or something there.
Yeah.
And it counts down. And then when you resume, that stops. And then you can take another break that counts down, etc.
Yeah. So no, you can only take a break once.
Oh.
So yeah, only once.
Okay.
So you see the 45 minutes or 30 minutes. So once you hit that break button, you get a 30-minute countdown. Mm-hmm. So, and then once you hit resume, that's it. You go back to the other clock, the test clock starts. Or if you don't click resume and the 30 minutes expire and you're not back at your seat, then the clock automatically starts, right? So you want to make sure if you need to go to the bathroom, do whatever you gotta do, go out there, do what you gotta do, and come back before that 30-minute expires, right? You know, so typically what I would do, I guess I would take my break between the multiple choice and the case studies. Finish the multiple choice. I see my first case study question. I will hit the break button, go out. They don't let you leave the testing center. You can't leave. You can't go outside or take a smoke break and all that stuff. You have to stay inside. So you go out there to the bathroom. You drink some water. You know, some people, you know, they're diabetic. I'm diabetic, so I will have a snack. You know, because you're there, you can't eat. You can't bring food in there. So if you have food, you can't bring it in. You know, they give you a little locker where you can store food and you can eat whatever. You know, recharge, drink some water. I look at the clock. I got 10 minutes left. Let me go check back in because I said they had to check you back in. You know, check your, you know, they have to, you know, freeze, you know, do the metal detector thing and all that. And you go back in, check your ID, you go back in. I'll sit down and it'll be like, okay, I got 2 minutes left on the break, right? 2 minutes left on the screen on the break clock. So I would just sit here and just look at the screen for 2 minutes, literally, and wait till the hit zero, and then the exam will start again. I'm like, all right, let's go. So you got to give yourself, you know, plan that accordingly. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, any more questions on that? So yeah, so
I had a question. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
ma'am.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I heard that some people that does the case study first instead of the multiple choice. Do you have that option?
Yeah. I actually did. I actually ended up doing that because I found that easier. So basically, so when you go to the NCAR website, they have practice tests in there, so you can see what the practice test looks like. Basically, there's a button there that lets you see all the questions. You click on it, and it gives you all the questions 1 through whatever 100. So typically, I would know that the case studies start at typically question 80 or 81. So I will go and click that question, and then it opens up that question, and then from there it will go from 81 to 100. You know, and then I will take my break. Now I'll come back. I will start question 1. So that's how you do that. That's how you do that. So you basically, I can't remember what the button is called, but in the interface of the exam, there's a button that you can see all the questions, right? Like it gives you a list of all the questions, like just as it say question 1, you know, so you can basically skip questions around if you want. But obviously you don't want to do that because, you know, you'll lose track of time. But it will tell you what questions you completed, like that question 1's answer, question, and it will say question 1. If you answer it, will say answer it, and then if you didn't answer, it will say not answer. So with that, you know what questions, and then the ones that you mark, it would tell you the ones that you marked too. You know, so it's basically a summary. I just remember what the button is called.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Yeah. So that's kind of, so depending on the exam, you kind of have to know. You know, typically the you know, depending on the exam, you have a different amount of case questions. So you kind of have to know where those start. You know, and typically for PDD and PPD, which are the 2 exams that took them 5.0, it starts out around question 78 or 80. And I will go there and check, and I will move to the next question. Okay, and until I got to the case study, and I will just go that to the end. And I found that to be better personally because, you know, I don't like reading questions at the end when I was tired. Anyway, but that's, and then CE 75, 3 hours. You know, so I'm kind of going to wrap it up here. This basically right here, the same thing I just went over. So resources. So you got NCAR, it gives you a whole bunch of resources. The 5.0 guidelines, which is what this whole presentation was about. Handbook. You got the ARA community where you go in and get help from other people who are taking the exam. It's like a chat room. You can post. I mean, you cannot post questions about the actual exam because that's against the rules. But you can post questions about study materials and different strategies of taking the test, like I just told you. You know, so their community, they got the demonstration exam right there on the website. Go there where you get familiar with the interface of the exam and how the questions are worded and the type of questions you're going to see. I recommend you do that. So that's very important. You know, they got prep series, video series in there, and then obviously they update the stuff if you subscribe, if you're a member. If you create an account, they'll send you the latest and greatest stuff that NCAR is doing. And you can select which items they can send you. Like if you want ARA updates, if you want just NCAR updates in general, you can select the emails that you get. But I would definitely recommend you to check out the demonstration exam. That way you can actually take some practice tests and you see how the whole thing works. So you want to spend time figuring out how the test is set up, right? You know, you want to make sure you spend time on the items or the questions, not trying to figure out how to do a drag and drop or how to fill in the blank. Like, how do I do that? You don't want to be thinking about that. And these are like third-party sources that you can, and this is actually when you start taking the exam, you know, that I personally have used. You know, our Amateur book is good, guy here in Virginia Tech, you know, Michael Ehrman set that up. You know, you got Pluralsight, Black Spectacles, the subscription base. You're an architect subscription rate, subscription base. And then you got some books here that are really good. Practice exams and books, you know, you can go there and, you know, do some practice tests, which in some cases are harder than ARE. And then obviously videos, if you're more like a graphic person instead of just reading, these are all kind of video based sources where, you know, especially Amber book, all his stuff is animated videos. And so, you know, if you're that kind of person, it's good. So any questions on any of the stuff I went over? I know it was a lot, but any questions? When do you just going right? When do y'all plan on taking your first exam?
So I am on the process of doing the DPOR application and plan to take the exam at some point this year, like the first one.
Okay.
And I'm also sort of not exactly halfway, but pretty deep into the AXP.
Okay. That's good. That's good. That's great, man. So anybody else?
I'm planning to take the practice management at the end of February.
Okay. Yeah, do you have your NCARB record?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Yeah, and like I say, AIA, yeah, somebody put in the chat, you know, AIA has a lot of stuff too, depending on your local chapter where you are. They, you know, they have a young architects forum. They do exam reviews, you know, like here at NOMA, we do them. Like I said, next month, we're going to do another one. We're going to start with practice management exam. We're going to do, what we do here, I do is I send out a practice test to you all. You fill it out, you know, you complete it. And then when you come on here, we talk about it, we discuss it. So, and we you know, spend a little bit of time looking at the structure of the test, but then we spend the majority of the time looking at the practice questions, which are retired ARE questions, by the way. And it's not that stuff that I came up with. It's stuff that is actually came from other exams. Retired questions that they no longer use. So it's the same format. And we'll be doing that every month. We'll take a break in July for our because we have our summer camp. But then we'll resume back in August. So we'll be doing one every month. So hopefully you can join us next month. Be on the lookout for that. Any other questions on this stuff? Well, I mean, I no other questions. I hope everybody can get the NCARB record, and hopefully you can embark on this journey. It's a wonderful journey. It's a hard journey, but you know, once you get on it, you know, you'll be hooked and you want to finish. I mean, like I say, it took me 6 years, like I said, because I was kind of doing it when I was, you know, we had 3 of my kids were born that period. So it was kind of hard to study with a baby around. So, but I kept at it, you know, and finally finished, and I was very happy about it. So, you know, once you finish at the other end, it's going to feel really good. You can start call yourself an architect and start telling people that you're an architect when you're really not an architect, because it's a regular profession here. So, in all states, you know, you can't call yourself an architect until you're licensed. So you can say you're an architecture or a designer or a professional or all that stuff, but you cannot say architect for sure. But anyway, but thank you all. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out, email us at info@vanoma.org, .com, gmail.com, and we'll definitely answer your questions and be a resource. All right, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. That's very helpful. Thanks.
Good presentation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ton of material. I wanted to watch it because I mentor young architects, and I took it back in the, you know, the 4-day
Oh,
paper, pencil, You bring your own chair.
The good old days, huh? Back in the.
So that was really good. I have one question.
Hey,
The design part, do you actually do design, or do they now like just sort of you make choices about design?
yeah, there's no vignettes anymore. There's no design at all. It's all it's like I said, you have the case studies, which is basically they give you a scenario, and it's basically questions based on the case study. Like it might be like a municipality, like you have to read either code or you have to read like a municipal stuff. But there's no more design anymore. Like in the 4.0 when I started, we had the vignettes where you had to actually go in there. They had this antiquated CAT system, and you had to kind of like design something. But everybody hated that thing because that it wasn't AutoCAD or it was like NCAR's own CAD system. You had to kind of have to learn how to use it and trick it. It was really bad, and everybody so they got rid of those. So there's no more design. Everything is multiple choice.
Now you can become an architect without. Well, I guess that's what the design. You go to your school. You learn how to design in school.
Yeah. So I mean they replaced it with that's what they introduced the drag and drop and the hotspot. So where you have a lot of details and you basically have to go in and and complete give you like a wall detail or something. You have to go in and drag the right things from the right leaders and stuff like that. And so it's a lot more graphical questions now. A lot more graphical, and in the hotspot where they ask you to ask you where is this at, and you go in and click on that, and then the case studies, which is I said a lot of graphics, and you have to, but it's still questions. There's no drawing or anything like that.
And one thing I saw, I went in and was quickly reading the Virginia DPOR regulation for designing. If you are not a native English speaker, which Kareem, I think, was born in Afghanistan, then you have to take a TOEFL test, even though you're educated in the United States.
Yeah, they make you take that just for English proficiency, I guess. I mean, they make you take that. That's kind of
weird if you've gone. I mean, that seems like if you've gone to a state school. I don't know. I just saw that and I thought that would, like, for someone like him, he hasn't been in school for like 10 years, I think. So
I guess I look at it on a case by case basis. Maybe that's a way that you can. I know people that might be more set up for people who come here. There's ways to get people who come here just for school and finish school and might not be proficient in English. But I would think if you finish school here, you will be proficient in English already.
Well, I know, like at UVA currently, the UVA program has a very large percentage of Chinese students. And so possible that they could be less proficient speaking English, but they certainly are proficient reading it. I mean, so I don't know. It was just interesting, but great content. You packed so much in. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that I left out. I mean, I say I just wanted to stay with the main course there, but it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I just kind of want to give them I know when I started, like I was like clueless as to how to begin. Back in 2014, and I kind of had to go and I mean, this stuff in NCAR, the NCAR website is much better now than it was back then. So it's to find.
With NOMA, I wonder if because we're really trying, one of the missions is to increase the number of licensed architects. I wonder when someone actually, we should encourage people to have a mentor that will sort of check in and say, how's it going?
Yeah.
Are you making progress, like with Kareem, like now that you set this out, because he's on the planning commission. I mean, I don't know how he's gonna have time with all the meetings he goes to. He's on the local planning commission, which is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we talked about before. I mean, and that's kind of like what we want to grow in numbers, because that way we can ask our members to see. But that's something that we definitely want to. We have discussed that in the past, because I mean, I personally have mentored people a couple of years ago. I know Ken has done it, but I think we should definitely set something up where we have like an established program. So that's something that probably I will bring up to the board and see if we can get that going. I mean, the more, right now membership is like around, here in the States, like around 30, 35. So that's what we kind of wanted to grow that, because the more we have in the pool, the more we can, want to be able to get people who are interested,
Right.
so.
But we're also doing at the AIA level, we're doing,
Yeah, the
Please.
mentors. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, and I know you guys are doing students as well as.
and a
as
lot of my
professionals.
students have been, the people I've been assigned to past 3 years have been Asian American,
Mhm.
first generation. And I think they just need a little more, I mean, actually, I think they're like the